Good afternoon. Welcome to CL's CAT YT channel for all CAT aspirants. Continuing our series on past year questions, today I have picked up a passage from a previous year paper, 2017 slot 1 to be exact. Let me just log into my chat and then we shall start the session. All right, so it's very important. Now, cat is round the corner, so it's very important that we do past cat year questions. As I kept telling you, no one does cat better than the cat question setters. This passage is from cat 2017, slot 1. I chose the passage for two reasons. It seems easy to read, but if you read it
I chose the
fast or in
passage
a
for two
hurry,
reasons.
then
It's
let me lower this, then it you make mistakes. All right, so you cannot rush through the passage. At the same time, it's not one of those very difficult passages, so it's a very nice one. Let's start. As usual, I will show you about 2 minutes per slide. Yes, and then I'll summarize. After you finish reading the slide, I'll summarize it for you. All right, start reading now. Read at your own pace, a little faster. One minute up. I'll give you one more minute. Next slide. Read for another 2 minutes and then I will summarize it for you. Read, and as you read, process whatever is easy. One minute up, another 1 minute. All right. So, first paragraph. So, let's just quickly summarize the passage. First paragraph, the author says that human beings have a long history. We have a long history of drawing maps, right? We have a long history of drawing maps. We've been doing it on stone tablets, papyrus paper, and now computer screens. That's the only point you need to remember in paragraph 1. Paragraph 2, he says, given such a long history of human map making, it is surprising that it's only within the last few hundred years that North has been consistently considered to be at the top. Okay, so we have a long history of map making, drawing maps, but it's only in the last 100 years that we have put north as the top of the map. The orientation of the map with north on the top has only been in the last few years. And then, in fact, according to a map historian, Jerry Brutton, and the author keeps quoting Breton. So, North was rarely put on the top of the map earlier for the simple fact that North is where darkness comes from. So, most cultures, societies did not put North at the top of the map. Similarly, West was not put on top of the map because West is where the sun disappears. So, the second paragraph, that North was not put on top of the map for most of human history. Putting North on top of the map is a very recent creation. All right. Confusingly, early Chinese maps buck this trend. Bucking the trend means going against the trend. So, early Chinese maps, though, did not follow this old practice of not putting North on top. That means they put North on the top. But, so whenever you have this, you know that this is a very important word. It introduces a contradictory viewpoint or telling you that don't go with the expected line on the expected lines. Breton says even though they had compasses at the time, the Chinese had compasses at the time, that is not the reason they placed north at the top. The Chinese put north on the top of the map, but not because of the compasses which pointed to the geographical north, not that the geographical north and magnetic north. It says not because of that. Early Chinese compasses were actually oriented to point south, which is more desirable than darkest north. So the early Chinese compasses were also oriented to point south. But in Chinese maps, why was north put on top? The author says in Chinese maps, the emperor who lived on the north of the country was always put at top of the map. So north is symbolic of the emperor who stays in the north of the country, and therefore north was put on top of the map with everyone else, his loyal subjects, looking up towards him. That is why they put north on the top of the map. Got it? Not because of compasses, the compasses were oriented to south. Next, in Chinese culture, why does the emperor look south? Because that's where the winds come from. North is not a very good direction, but north is the subjects are in a position of subjection to the emperor, so they look up to the north. Emperor looks towards the good direction where the winds come from, while the people look to the north to show respect to the emperor. Done. Now he introduces other cultures. He says, given that each culture has a very different idea of who or what they should look up to, it is not surprising that there is very little consistency in which way early maps pointed. So, depending on the culture, early maps pointed to different directions. There's no consistency here. Early Egyptian maps pointed to the east. Why? Because that was the position of the sunrise. Early Islamic maps favored south at the top because most of the early Muslim cultures were north of Mecca. So they imagined looking up south towards Mecca. Christian maps from the same era, called the Mappa Mundi, were put east at the top. Why? Because that is pointing, sorry, that is pointing towards the Garden of Eden with Jerusalem in the center. So different cultures, Egyptians put it in the east, that is the direction of sunlight, sunrise. Islamic maps south because that is the direction of Mecca. Christian maps east because that is the direction of the Garden of Eden. So when, when did everyone get together and decide that north was the top? The author is asking. So will he tell us the answer in the next para? Let's see. It's tempting to put it down to European explorers like Christopher Columbus and Ferdinand Magellan, who was navigating by the North Star. So one reason, one big temptation is, oh, they put north on the top because of explorers like Columbus and Magellan. They were navigating by the North Star. Maybe that is why north was put on the top. But again, this word, Brutton argues that these early explorers didn't think of the world like that at all. They didn't think of north on top and going by the North Star. When Columbus describes the world, it is in accordance with east being at the top. Columbus says he's going to a paradise. So his mentality is from a medieval mappa mundi. That means for him, the orientation of the map was east. We've got to remember, as Bretton, that no one knows what they were doing. At that time, no one knew what they were doing. Clear? All right. Question 1. Which of the following best describes what the passage is trying to do? What is the purpose of the author? Why has he written the passage? What is he trying to do in the passage? I'll give you a minute for answering. I want all of you to give me the answer. Don't bother about correct or wrong. Commit yourself. I mean, obviously, I want you to do it correctly. Look at each option and analyze it and decide whether it is exactly correct or not. And then I'll explain to you how to eliminate options. It questions an explanation about how maps are designed. It corrects a misconception about the way maps are designed. It critiques a methodology used to create maps, or it explores some myths about maps. What is the passage trying to do? Quickly give me your answers. Life lessons, good afternoon. Ayush, good afternoon. Josh says it's C. What about the rest? Ayush, life lessons, and others. So many of you, I want lot more answers. Only one answer I've got so far. Is it A, B, C, or D? Okay, your 1 minute is up. Shall we discuss? What explanation does it questioning? Is the passage saying that according to an ancient explanation, this is why north is on the top, and does the author says an explanation? No. What explanation is he questioning? So one is wrong. It corrects a misconception about the way maps are designed. What is the misconception? That north has always been on the top of the map, but it's only in recent years that north has always been on the top of the map, and we don't know why. At least in the passage he doesn't tell us. He tells us most early maps were either east or south facing. When did we start this north thing? So the misconception is north has always been at the top of the map. He corrects that and he says no. All right. It critiques a methodology used to create maps. Now there is no, the author doesn't say what method is used to create maps. There is no criticism of the method used to create maps. The only question is, when did north come to be put at the top so consistently? That is the way maps are designed. Orientation of the map, not creation. Creation is looking at the scale, putting the countries, putting the area. That is creation. He hasn't said this method of creating and drawing the map is wrong and that method is better. So there is no methodology being critiqued here. It explores some myths. What myths? We have a history of drawing maps. Only in recent years, north has been put at the top. Most of the early maps were east or south facing. When and how or why did north come to be put on top? That's all he is asking. Got it? So it corrects a misconception about the way maps are designed. North has not always been consistently put on top. Why? How did north come to be put on top? Therefore, the correct answer is option B. Okay. If you got the answer wrong, don't worry. Many who took the exam in 2017 got it wrong. All right. Let's look at the next question. Early maps did not put north at the top for all of the following reasons except. Means which one is not a reason for not putting north on top? What is one reason for not putting north on top? All three will tell you why north was not put on top. One doesn't say that. Tell us what is that. Why was north not put on top? Think of all the reasons the author has given. Eliminate those options. Whichever is the one not mentioned by the author for not being. What are the disadvantages the author has mentioned about the north? All those get eliminated. Quickly give me your answers. I'll give you again a minute. I want more answers this time, huh? Mark your answers. It doesn't matter. We have revised it, we have summarized it. And then, after you give yourself sufficient time, north was the source of darkness. Has the author mentioned that as a reason for not being put on top? Yes. So, author has mentioned this as the reason. This cannot be the answer. South was favored by some emperors because south is where the winds come from, which is why the emperor faces south. But is that the way reason north was? That is the reason north was put on top, not putting on top. So that is our answer. East and south were more important for religious reasons. True. East for Christians, south for Islam. Therefore, north was not put. These maps were east or south oriented. So this is a reason given for north not being put on top. So C is not the right answer. East was considered by some civilizations, Egyptians, for example, to be a more positive direction. True, which is why their maps are oriented to the east, not to the north. So, south being favored by some emperors is not the reason for not being put on top. South was favored. The emperor lived in the north for China, faced south, subjects looked up to him, which is why early Chinese maps put north on top. So B is the answer we want. It is not a reason for not putting north on top. Clear? So B is our correct answer. Good. Question 3. According to the passage, okay, early Chinese maps put north at the top because, now suppose during your summary of the passage you missed this point, because it's a direct question, go back to where China has been mentioned and then get your answers right. Okay, Chinese has been given here. Early Chinese maps buck the trend of not putting north on top. Chinese compasses were pointed south. In China's maps, the emperor who lived in the north of the country was always put at the top. Okay, and everyone else were looking up towards him. That is why in early Chinese maps, north was kept on top. Why? Because the emperor lived in the north, just subjects were in the south. They looked up to him to show respect. Clear? Now, what is the answer? Answer is very easy. Once you see that, answer becomes very easy. The Chinese invented the compass and were aware of the magnetic north, true, but their compass was oriented to the south. They wanted to show respect to the emperor. Correct. This is the answer. Chinese emperor appreciated winds from the south, true, but that is why he faced the south. But that is not a reason for north being put on top. Okay, north was considered the most desirable direction. Vague answer, this has not been mentioned in the passage. Therefore, the correct answer is option B. How many got that right? Okay. Next, it can be inferred from the passage that the European explorers like Columbus and Magellan did what? Quickly read the options. We'll go back to the passage and see what has been said about Columbus and Magellan. Set the precedent for north up maps, navigated by the compass, used an eastward orientation for religious reasons. Let me see your answers quickly. Or navigated with the help of early maps. Let's go back. Okay, here it is tempting to say that Columbus and Magellan navigated by the North Star, started the trend of putting north on top. It is tempting, but it is not true. They did not do it. These early explorers didn't think of the world like that at all. When Columbus describes the world, it is in accordance with east being at the top. So Columbus believed in maps which were east oriented. Columbus says he's going towards paradise. His mentality is medieval mappa mundi, which were early Christian era maps. So that's all we need to know. So Columbus and Magellan did not set the precedent for north up maps. They did not navigate by compass, they navigated by the North Star. They used an eastward orientation for religious reason because Columbus believed he was traveling towards the Garden of Eden. So, and that Garden of Eden has a religious basis. Okay, they did not navigate with the help of early maps. They navigated with the help of the North Star. Therefore, the correct answer is option C. Clear? Okay. Question 5. What does the passage tell us about the northern orientation of the maps? Let me give you a minute. Quickly tell me now. You've read the passage, we've read it, we've summarized it. Quickly, within a minute, tell me what does the passage tell us about the northern orientation of maps? The biggest contributory factor was the understanding of the magnetic north. The biggest contributory factor was the role of European explorers. The biggest contributory factor was the influence of Christian maps, or the biggest contributory factor is not stated in the passage. Quickly give me your answers in 30 seconds and then we'll see. Did the author say anything about the understanding of the magnetic north? This has not been mentioned. Only the Chinese used compasses, but even their compasses were oriented south. So he did not say there was an understanding of the magnetic north. The role of European explorers, he said no, Columbus and Magellan navigated by the North Star. Columbus believed he was going towards the Garden of Eden, so they believed that east was on top of the map and they had a religious basis. So this is also wrong. The biggest contributory factor was the influence of Christian maps. No, Christian maps were oriented east. It has not been stated. We do not know. The author has not given us an answer as to why north was put on the top of the map. Clear? So D is the correct answer. All right. Last question of the set. The role of natural phenomena in influencing map making conventions is seen most closely in which maps? Early Egyptian maps, early Islamic maps, early Chinese maps, or early Christian maps? Let's quickly go back to the passage. Early Christian maps were oriented towards the east because of the Garden of Eden. So, what is the uh, influence? Natural phenomena? No, the influence is religion. Early Chinese map, the influence is the emperor. It was facing the north to show respect to the emperor. Early Islamic maps were to the north of Mecca, so they faced south because Mecca was in the south, so they had religious reasons for their orientation. Early Egyptian maps because that was the direction of sunrise. So, yes, early Egyptian maps were influenced by natural phenomena. So, the correct answer is A. All right. So easy passage, but you are likely to make mistakes if you do not read carefully. The most common wrong answers are made in this question and the first question, question 1 and question 4. All right. So make sure you go through this passage one more time. See how nicely the wrong options have been created to confuse you. Uh, Read the passage in 3 to 3.5 minutes. Today you read it in 4 minutes. All right, and answer questions by eliminating options. Any questions? All right, we will see you again next Saturday with another passage from a past year question paper. Until then, bye bye.